Welcome to the Chamber Spotlight, a local talk show podcast brought to you by the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce in association with the local scene. We'll be recording on a regular basis and we'll cover many topics that span local businesses, local elections, local town governance, and a citizens' academy. I'm your host, Fraser Townley, and today we are sitting down with Dan Sullivan, Water Superintendent for the town of Pembroke. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Beautiful weather out there today. What's happening?
It's coming around. Summer's on its way.
We had probably the worst winter on record, or pretty close to.
It's comparable to, everybody keeps talking about 2015. But yeah.
Yeah, 2015 was the last bad one we had, that's for sure. Someone actually told me, and I know this isn't your expertise, but someone told me recently that we've changed the way we measure. And although we had more snowfall than the 78 storm, 78 actually dropped more snow.
I heard that also, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you don't know why?
I don't.
Okay. Let's go back to your method, your expertise. So I always like to get our guests' background. What's your background? Give me your bio.
So I've been in the drinking water field for, I want to say 18 years now. It's kind of a family business. My father, uncles, cousins, they all work in the industry too.
Right.
Worked my way up from laborer up to the superintendent over the years.
Yeah.
I was on the private side for, I want to say like 7 years. That was a good range of things, overseeing projects, operations, a lot of new startups and stuff like that. Gave me a lot of experience and growth.
Yeah. So you were very specific there. You said drinking water.
Yes. Yeah. Not
What's
wastewater.
The difference? Right. Okay.
Yeah. So people just assume water's water. You get storm water, wastewater, drinking water. Right. I've always been in the drinking water aspect where it's potable water for residences and providing fire protection.
So, okay. Drinking water, I understand. Wastewater, I think I understand. Storm water, just from raining.
Yeah, it's just the runoff from the rain.
Right.
So the state also regulates that. So the highway department oversees the MS4 permit, which is stormwater. So they have to check catch basins, outfall, stuff like that. That doesn't fall under me. That falls under the highway department.
Okay. And is that all part of the DPW?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm the superintendent, the water superintendent, so I strictly deal with the potable water supply and the fire protection.
Got it. Okay. So the fire department rely on your supplies?
Correct.
Okay. Got it. Good. That almost covered your role, but what is your role?
So I'm water superintendent, so I oversee daily operations, help prepare capital projects, which I think the residents are seeing plenty of right now in town. Assist with paperwork, all the state reporting. I oversee chemical addition reports, annual statistic reports, consumer confidence reports, all that information the state wants to keep us in compliance.
Yeah. What is our consumer confidence report right now?
So we will be mailing that out soon. Every year we have to mail out any contaminants that are in the water. Well, they say contaminants, but any minerals, anything we detect in the water, we have to report to the residents to show that it meets the federal standards.
Right. But what if it doesn't?
So if it doesn't, the state and federal government have public notification methods that we have to use. So if we were to exceed a compound or any kind of contaminant in the water, we would have guidelines on when we have to notify residents. And if it's a health issue, corrective actions, whether it's supplying bottled water or you may be put into like an emergency water band usage.
So this wasn't on my list of questions to ask you, but are you reporting to the state or the town manager? Or is it a bit of both? Dotted line somewhere.
Correct. So obviously I report to the town manager. Yeah. As far as operations, all the reporting and stuff, we report to Mass DEP. Every month they check the boxes that we took all the required sampling for the system,
Yeah.
completed our tank inspections. If we're doing water main projects, we have to have sign-offs that the pipe was properly tested, sampled, and everything before it was put online. So there's a lot of interaction with the state, making sure we're in compliance.
Right. So you're reporting to the town manager, but you're fulfilling state mandated.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. I actually got and this again wasn't part of what I planned to talk about, but you mentioned something about piping. I got a letter from the gas company, and they said that they were stopping by our street to replace all the piping from metal to plastic. And they made the statement that plastic is more durable and better than metal for gas.
For gas, correct. Right now they're doing studies. There's concerns about microplastics in drinking water, which potentially could be from water pipes. For gas service, obviously, that's a non-issue.
Sure.
The gas company, production-wise, it's faster for them to install it. It's a lighter material. Like they said, it's flexible. It's got to give.
Yeah.
So for the gas industry, it is beneficial. Our current specs, we require ductile iron pipe, cement coated. That's what we install.
Right. For a mains.
Yes, for our water mains. And then service lines are copper.
Right. And once it gets into the home, it could be anything. Plastic.
Once it's in the home through the meter. A lot of residents use PEX now.
Yeah.
That's the common thing.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the infrastructure. You recently presented to the select board the most recent plans or whatever, but within that there were statements and stats that I think we can share, such as, is it 135 miles of piping we've got, or is that, am I making that up?
No, so we roughly have 135 miles of piping. We've done recent abandonment projects, so there were some roads that had 2 water mains on them, and as we eliminate the second water main, so originally when they were building the system, they maybe put like an 8-inch water main on the street.
Okay.
As the town grew, it was inadequate, so they put a 16-inch main or a 12-inch main running parallel to it, and they left both online. And then as things aged, we've transferred everybody to the newer main and gotten rid of the old main. So that's why you may see our piping stats will probably go down over the next couple of years. We are undertaking a few abandonment projects. It makes the ease of operations when it comes to flushing. It really simplifies things because you don't have to worry about interconnections and all these other things.
So it's 135 miles currently, but some of that is doubled up.
Some of it's doubled up, and then obviously with the building going on in town, that'll add to the inventory too. But usually site projects don't add too much pipe. Yeah.
And does a 12-inch pipe versus an 8-inch pipe? Did you say 12 or 16?
So in one scenario, it was a 12-inch and an 8 on the same street, correct?
Right. But does a 12-inch deliver more pressure than an 8-inch?
So it's not so much pressure, it's volume. So you're getting into the...
I'm sorry.
So when you have an 8-inch pipe, say it holds roughly 2.6 gallons per foot, a 12-inch pipe will hold 5.8 gallons per foot. So in theory, you do double it. But if I think on my original presentation, I showed like a 6 plus 6 doesn't equal 12. So a 6-inch pipe only holds 1.6 gallons. So if you had 2 6-inch pipes, it doesn't equal the same volume that a 12-inch could carry.
Right.
So once you have that size pipe, now we got to look into the demand. What businesses, residences are on the street, how much water they're going to use. The more water you use, the faster the water is moving through the pipe, which causes pressure decreases. And that's when people may experience lower pressure if there's high volumes of flow in the pipe.
Right.
So having the larger pipe allows you to move more water, which equates to less pressure deficiencies.
Got it. And that flow is not seasonal, but there's peak times during the day that you're going to see the flow.
Yes, certainly. Obviously, everybody wakes up 5 a.m., getting in the shower. Yeah. You're going to see that. We see that on the trends, dinner time, people coming home, washing dishes, putting clothes on, taking showers again. So the diagonal curve is what they call it. You'll see peaks in the flows throughout the day. and then certainly during the summer if people are watering.
Yeah. So what are those peaks? Like you said, it's first thing in the morning, early evening.
Yeah, so you normally see the flow start picking up maybe 4:30 or so, kind of steady out around maybe 8 o'clock. That's when people are to work and, the kids are at school. Picks back up 4 in the afternoon, probably till 9 at night.
So that's a residential curve. What about the businesses? So if the business is shut when everybody's getting ready for work and then everybody gets to the business, the flow kicks in on the business?
So at this point, we don't have, eventually when we change out our meters and we have advanced metering technology, we'd be able to tell better when everybody's using their peaks and lows. Right now we just base it off of the overall pumpage for the day. Yeah. And then we can monitor how quickly the tanks are dropping, plus what we're pumping to see if we're gaining or losing.
Yeah. And where are those tanks? We've got 5, is that correct?
We currently have 3 that are online. West Elm, Learning Lane by the high school, and then Oak Street. And the High Street tank's been off since, I believe, 2009.
And we're putting a new one in somewhere.
Yes. So we just got under contract for the design of a second tank up by Oak Street.
Okay.
With all the commercial development up there, since that tank went in, the demands are pretty high up there. Yeah. So we want a little more capacity in that area.
Okay. That's where I got my 5 from then. It's 3 plus 1 abandoned and 1 coming on stream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's right.
Got it. And what's happening in Pleasant Street? Is that a pump station?
Correct. So that's something the town's been working on since, I believe, roughly 2009. They purchased the old bogs there. It's like 250 acres. We're installing a well field. So it's 3 wells. They're actually in now. And then it's just a pump station that will adjust the pH, chlorinate the water, and add fluoride.
Yeah. So how many pump stations do we have?
So Swanberg will hopefully be on in June. Then we have wells 2 and 3, and then wells 4 and 5, which all share 1 treatment plant.
Right.
And then in our capital plan, we are requesting the funding to build a treatment plant for wells 2 and 3, which currently aren't filtered.
Okay.
Well, that leads us to where we run into discolored water problems and stuff in the system. So wells 2 and 3, the water more than meets the federal standards, but there is manganese in the water. Mm-hmm. And as it oxidizes, it settles in the pipes. And when we have those high flows, when people are waking up in the morning, if there's fires, construction work, those minerals get kicked up in the bottom of the pipe and discolor the water until it's flushed away during our flushing program.
And so which parts of town are affected by wells 2 and 3?
So it's a distribution system, so everybody's connected.
Right.
So the water does blend somewhat, and then depending on the demands in the day, it depends on where that water flows. But generally, it's all kind of blended for the most part, and then it's distributed. So,
I only ever see brown water in my house when the pipes are being flushed. And then it's there for, I don't know, half a day. So my perspective as to the brown water, so to speak, is it's not an issue to me. But I know it's an issue to a lot of people. In fact, on High Street, you'll hear people saying, well, it's brown all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't quite understand why that is. Is there a reason for that?
So they're in the middle of the system, so between the pump stations and the tanks, as you have changes in flow. So we pump the water into the tanks, and then when the pumps shut off, when the tanks are full, the water now changes directions and goes the opposite way. So if it's a sudden change or a dramatic change in flow, those minerals could get kicked up. Part of the reason we just replaced High Street was the tuberculation in the pipe. It was a circa 1930s cast iron pipe that had corrosion on the inside, which choked it down to essentially like a 6-inch pipe, which means it can carry less volume. Right. So it's it gets kicked up a little bit easier.
So the pipe they took out of High Street was from the 1930s. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, roughly then. That's when Pembroke started building the system.
Almost 100 years old.
Yeah.
Wow. And what happened to that pipe? Has it gone into a museum or has it been melted down?
Generally, it's abandoned in place. So we run the new pipe in parallel a few feet away, transfer everybody over to the new pipe once it's past testing and all that, and then just leave the other pipe buried in the ground, capped.
Okay.
It's the most cost-effective way to do it.
Yeah. And what does that actually, I mean, it's lasted 100 years. How many years? Is it just going to disintegrate or?
No, so the integrity of the pipe is pretty good. The walls are usually like a half-inch thick. That so much wasn't the issue. It's the interior corrosion and tuberculation. So minerals build up on the inside of the pipe wall because there's no protection between the water and the pipe. That's why we use cement lining now on the inside of the pipe, so there's no corrosion of the metal. So there are rehabilitation methods. We did evaluate if we could clean the inside of that pipe, the existing pipe, put a cement coating in it, but there's limitations to the work. You generally have to disturb the line every 500 feet, cut into it. You swap the pipe out, get it down to bare metal, put the coating on. And in the meantime, you have to run bypass piping up above ground. So there's trade-offs. And at the end of the day, you still have a 100-year-old pipe that you did the cement lining on, and you disturbed it at all these locations. Where for, I think the evaluated price was like an extra $300,000 to install new on the High Street project. Where certainly there's rehab projects that work out better if you're in an urban environment and your production's low. So like we had days that they were putting in 600 feet of pipe a day. In the city, you might only get 40 or 60 feet in. So where you're not making that production, sometimes the cleaning and lining is the better option.
Yeah. I'm pretty certain you made the right choice for the town. But it's interesting to hear what those options were and the ones that we actually went with. Yeah. So it's all new pipe in High Street now.
Correct. So the other thing with the lining is the services don't get replaced. So the town's liability. So everything in the roadway, the town layout is all new now. And we don't have, hopefully not have to worry about anything for the foreseeable future.
Are there any other pipes in town, and maybe you don't want to talk about this, but are there any other pipes in town that are older than that?
No, so...
That was the oldest.
So the system started from the intersection of Bryanttville. So Mattakesett Street's like that same age, High Street, and then Center Street was, but that was abandoned recently, Center into Barker, heading up to Washington. So we do have plans to replace those other areas. Washington Street was identified in the master plan as an area that obviously there's been a lot of building up by Hanover. So that pipe is somewhat undersized, so we plan on replacing that in the near future. It's on our capital plan.
Cool. So back to, you were saying about the filtration system that you're going to put on, was it wells 2 and 3 you were talking about?
Correct.
So that should help with the brown water as well.
That'll be a huge help.
Right.
By taking the mineral, essentially we're oxidizing the minerals, they're settling in the system because they're not being filtered out. So if we filter them out, they won't be in the system to get kicked up.
Yeah.
So we'll see huge improvements in overall water quality by doing that. And then also just the redundancy. So now we have 2 filtration plants because things do happen. You have to maintain pumps, VFDs burn out, lightning strikes. There's always the potential that our treatment plant could take a hit and be down for a couple of weeks for maintenance. So having that other treatment plant's really going to improve the overall quality for everybody.
Yeah, that's excellent. And you say we have the capital plan to do that?
Yes. So we're in the design phase right now for 2 and 3. We're hoping to go out to bid in June, pending the funds being approved at town meeting.
They haven't been approved yet?
The construction funds, no.
So that's coming up at this next town meeting in May, next
Correct.
month?
Yep.
Very good. So it's important that the town vote for that.
Correct. Yeah.
Do we have a number yet for people to mull over, or is that going to be presented on the night?
It'll be presented on the night. I know we had the 75% drawings. We're pretty confident. So we're requesting 29 million. We don't see it being that much. Our engineers are pretty heavy in contingencies and all that to protect the town, so that way we don't run into a situation that we're in construction and fall short.
But this isn't going to force us into an override or...
Nope. So any water improvement projects are funded from the Water Enterprise Fund. So it's based off the rate, the money we bring in from our water rates.
Terrific.
So the water rates would be adjusted to cover the cost of projects such as this.
So what kind of increase or decrease do you feel we're going to see?
So off the top of my head, I don't remember. But the construction will be over the next 3 years, so it'll be phased up slowly.
Okay, cool. So let's just talk about the actual infrastructure. There's a lot of talk about Brockton taking our water, and I know that what's actually going on there. But do you want to share? We don't give our water to our neighbors.
Correct. So Brockton has a treatment plant that pumps off of Silver Lake.
Right.
They've been there since the 1800s.
Yeah.
And Pembroke initially was actually supplied by Brockton up until the 1950s. So Pembroke's water system started in the 1930s. It wasn't until 1957 that they had their first pump station.
Right.
For those first years, Brockton supplied all the water to the town.
So they took surface water from Silver Lake, treated it, and shot it back to us.
Yeah, so in their transmission mains run down Route 27. You'll see their hydrants through East Bridgewater, Hanson, Whitman, all the way over to Brockton. And they actually have connections with all those towns. So they're actually a pretty good partner of all the other communities. If they ever have water emergencies, being able to help supplement water in those crises that they've had. Mm-hmm. There's been places that have had wells go down, unexpected maintenance, and the city of Brockton's been able to help those communities out.
So they could help us out in the event of a crisis we're having.
Correct. Yeah. So we have the Brockton Interconnect right at the intersection of Mattakesett Street and School Street. Mm-hmm. So we have a pipe that connects to them that's metered, that in an emergency we could turn it on.
Cool. But we're not giving our water. I mean, that's the...
Yeah.
You see it online.
So we get all of our water from wells.
Right.
We do have wells throughout the town that supply the water. Generally, the quality of the water is better from the well because the ground somewhat filters it. Mm-hmm. Where with the surface water, obviously, there's organisms swimming in the water that they're treating. So
nitrates from runoff from
all that stuff.
Yeah.
So treating surface water is a little bit more difficult. They have the technology. It's certainly doable. They've been doing it for a century over there. So for the most part, the water quality is protected a little bit better from runoffs like that, like you said, nitrates and stuff like that. But septic systems, failing septic systems and stuff along those lines can still affect groundwater if they're not properly maintained. So that's why it's very important to people to be careful about, using fertilizers, making sure their septic system's in working order, disposing of hazardous materials properly, gas, paint, oil, all that stuff. Don't dump it in your backyard. Dispose of it properly.
It's I grew up in a country where they claim that when you drink the water from the faucet, you're potentially the seventh person to have drunk that water. So
it's
I don't know how true that is, but
it's possible, I suppose.
Yeah, but that can't be possible in Pembroke. But it might be possible in Brockton, I think is what we're saying here.
Well, so the septic systems, obviously, they
leach.
Yeah, they leach into the ground and recharge the aquifer.
Yeah.
So part of our Water Management Act permit, we get credits because the town has septics and the water's recharging the ground that we're pumping from versus us sending it to a treatment plant out of town and that water regenerating that area. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a lot to it, and I think sometimes when you start talking about the details, it freaks people out.
No, listen, I think it's important that people understand because there's a lot of Facebook, and the people aren't crazy, but there's a lot of crazy stuff said on Facebook,
sure.
And making this accusation that we're giving our water away to Brockton and we need to stop all that. That's a silly statement.
Yes.
Brockton are taking our surface water, and that's the kind of water that no one in Pembroke wants to actually drink. It's going off to Brockton, but Brockton are there as a fail-safe. They're treating the water, and if we ever have an emergency, it's coming straight back to us. So we've got to be neighborly here.
Yeah,
we're not giving away the crown jewels, but that they are there to support us if we need it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we have communications with the city of Brockton occasionally. They're happy to help any way they can. A great thing we were a part of was the regional water supply that OCPC put on.
Yeah.
All the communities got together that fall under them, and we were talking about all the potential issues that surrounding towns can have and that we're currently facing now with rules and regulations, and how we can aid each other, and if there's a need for a regional water supply to kind of, back everybody up.
Yeah. Is that Mary Waldron's initiative or Becky Coletta?
A little bit of both. They did put it together. It was in the works like right when I started working for the town.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure who put it together. I know Becky was definitely involved.
Actually,
Mary
that's right.
was involved.
When did you join? When did you join the town?
I've been here for 3 years now.
3 years. Okay. I remember you joining. And it was a big thing because we didn't have a water superintendent before you. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Previously, the DPW director and assistant director assumed the role.
Yeah.
But it's been good.
Cool. Okay, so we've covered the aquifer versus surface water and Brockton's role in being a good neighbour there. What other developments can you share?
So I think the biggest thing is everybody's concerned about discolored water in town, and certainly our water system master plan that we produced addresses a lot of those issues. Like I said, replacing mains, we're constructing this treatment plant. So the foreseeable future, I think people will be very pleased with the end result. And I know people don't want to hear it, but another 2 years, we'll be looking pretty good. Even this summer, I have high expectations for once we get the Swanberg well on and another replacement well on, we'll be in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm. So the plan, if I'm hearing you correctly, the plan is to eradicate discoloration.
As much as possible. So
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but that's the plan.
Yeah. So like I said, if we filter out the mineral that's causing the issue, and replace the tuberculated pipe, then there's not much cause for any issue besides when we're flushing. Okay. And that'd be minimal.
So what I described experiencing, only seeing it for half a day when you're flushing.
Correct. So when I was on the private side, I had systems that had amazing quality water, and you could open up a hydrant anywhere, and nobody would experience discolored water because there was no minerals being deposited in the pipe. And I had places that you were getting cursed at. So it's all about making the investment into the infrastructure to deal with it.
Right.
I mean, anything's possible. It just comes time and money.
And had there not been any investment, or is this just a new technology that's coming on and we're...
No, so it's not so much that there was no investment. Obviously, they built the treatment plant for wells 4 and 5, which is very effective at removing an iron manganese. It removes quite a bit, actually. The low levels we see at wells 2, like I said, meet the federal standard, but it is known to be a nuisance mineral. The state really started investigating it probably in 2005. They came up with something called the unmonitored contaminant rule, and the federal government makes every municipality in the country every 3 years sample for a new target contaminant to see how widespread it is and how it's affecting communities, and then they'll create regulations based off of that.
Cool. So let's talk about the future a little bit. We are exclusively, well, I say exclusively, I'm not going to imagine I know what more than you. Do we have any sewerage, or is it all?
So there's only some private sewerage.
Okay.
Like the Lowe's, the RK Shopping Plaza. They have a wastewater plant. Pembroke Hospital has a wastewater plant. The high school has a wastewater plant.
So is there any plans for the town to create a wastewater?
Another OCPC initiative, I believe they're looking at possibly doing a study to see if it's feasible. I know the town of Pembroke looked into it. I think I saw a report back from the early 2000s about addressing specifically the pond neighborhoods, so that way you didn't have to worry about septic systems affecting the water quality of the ponds, because obviously that's a pretty big asset in town. Yeah. I think it makes sense to protect the water quality all around, because you also got to remember Abington Rockland also has a surface water plant in town. Yeah. So I think it'd be in our best interest to do that. Yeah. You see a lot of that down the Cape right now. Cape's pretty heavily investing in sewer infrastructure to protect their ponds and waterways.
Yeah, I think also in the corporate park area, it would make sense because having septic systems for...
It takes up space, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a developer is going to love that, not having to have a huge septic system where they can...
Well, I think it would also attract more businesses to town, which is something we need for our own growth and to manage the individual residents' tax paying.
Yeah.
Because if we can have more businesses, we can take the pressure. There's a lot of things coming down the pipe. We're looking at the vocation education. There may well be a call for a new DPW facility going forward, and it all has to be paid for. And if we can attract more businesses coming in, it could be a smart investment to
certainly,
to have that.
Yeah, I think that what I was getting to with the septics, I think it just kind of limits your site, right? Because if you got to be able to put a septic system in there, it's taking up real estate.
Yeah, precisely. So, what's your what other visions do you have for the future?
It's a good question.
Don't look at the clock.
I didn't know that was there until now. I think, like you said, the master plan, we spent a lot of time working with the consultants. We've done a lot of, investigating old record drawings and stuff going back to the 1930s. And I just want to see through that plan. It's going to put us in a real good position.
Sure.
We'll be able to handle any growth. That's not a concern.
Actually, that's a really good point because that's a question I hear an awful lot as well. That why are we planning on building more homes when we can't supply for the homes that are existing? And I hear that and I get it, but what words of reassurance can you give the residents that?
So it's not so much a supply issue. Obviously, it's the water quality. People are upset about that. So as we do these projects, that'll go away. As far as permit-wise, we come well under our permitted amount for pumping each year by about 200 million gallons that we don't touch.
So 200 million gallons of water
a year,
is excess to what we take.
Correct, for what we're permitted by the state.
Okay, so there's no problem there.
Correct, and that has a lot to do with the town adopted no irrigation in town. Back in 2005, which allows us to have that allotment, which right now I wouldn't mind because the revenue would be nice too.
Yeah.
But obviously we need to protect, it's about protecting the resource, making sure it's there for future needs.
Yeah.
So that's why we enforce those regulations.
So you do mention the quality of the water, but there is a perception that we will shut off people, we'll stop people from sprinkling because there's a water ban, and yet people in Brockton can carry on sprinkling because people drove through Brockton and saw sprinklers running, but it's a misconception. Isn't there the state mandated water ban? Correct.
So the city of Brockton has another thing going for them. So their plant is obviously so old, they have what's called a water registration. And there's nothing that imposes water restrictions in that. After the Safe Drinking Water Act, they started issuing water permits is what we have. And they do regulate how much water you can take and impose water restrictions based off of the environment that you're in. So they're looking at stream gauges around the Indian Head River is what we fall under. So they want to make sure that the streams aren't being affected by overpumping of the aquifers. But in our permit, it does say that every May through September, we will impose water restrictions. So those water restrictions aren't overbearing to begin with, but as the state evaluates how much rainfall we have for the year and other conditions, they may increase the drought. There's 4 levels. They could go to complete water ban, 1-day watering, 2-day watering. So that is imposed by the state. And we actually, all winter long, we were actually in a drought. They just lifted it about 2 weeks ago.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, our wells
with all that snowfall?
Well, you get an inch, what do they say, a foot of snow is an inch of water?
Well, yeah.
We were down about 4 feet in our wells at the end of the summer, which is, it sounds like a lot. We still had plenty of water to pump, but when you look at the data, we were down.
Wow. So this winter, we were effectively in a drought.
Yeah, up until 2 weeks ago.
Isn't that crazy?
It was lifted for this area. Out on the Cape Islands in Western Mass is still in a drought.
Fascinating. Well, this is great information. Dan, I've got this note, fun stories. I don't know why I think you would have some fun stories to share.
Yeah,
Anything that tickles you.
I don't know. I don't know where to go with that, to be honest.
Okay, all right. I was just thinking, you get called out to various people. Lisa Cullity had an awful lot of very amusing stories, and I just thought, I'll add that to Dan's list.
Obviously, yeah, you run into stuff when you're out in the field, but we'll leave it at that.
Okay. So there are stories you're not sharing. Very good. Listen, we've been at this now for over the half hour that we scheduled. I think you've shared an awful lot of fascinating stuff. I hope we've helped mitigate any of the myths that are out there. Was there anything you wanted to talk about that you feel we haven't covered? Was there any messaging you wanted to give to the Pembroke residents?
I don't think so. I mean, we've been trying to share as much as we can on social media and stuff like that through the town's website, Notify Me. I know that was always a big gripe when I started, was there's not enough information. So we're willing to share whatever people want to know. We actually, one of the water commissioners, when he was running, he asked if he could take a tour. I was like, yeah, you can see, there's nothing to hide. Yeah. Like you said, those misconceptions, like you can see whatever you want. I mean, it's all here. This is what it is.
I've got to say, so we've had several interactions. You came and did a presentation at our infrastructure forum last September, so 18 months ago. And you were very informative, very open. You've come and done this podcast. You had no clue what I was going to ask you.
I was a little nervous.
Really?
I'm not a big talker.
Well, you did a good job today. But, I mean, you didn't know the questions other than it was going to be water-related.
Yeah.
And you shared that information. I mean, and that is the key. There is a lot of talk on Facebook. There is a lot of talk in the social media. Let's not blame Facebook.
Yeah.
And it stems from people having brown water and making up stories. Yeah. And we have to help correct the dialogue. As the chamber, we want to help correct that, and I'm sure as a department, you want to do the same.
Oh, certainly. I mean, all my staff, they don't want to be showing up to somebody's house with a discolored water call. They take pride in what they do. Yeah. Infrastructure is a nationwide issue. Water issues are throughout the state. We have superintendent roundtables. Everybody else is going through this. Whether how publicized it is another thing. Yeah. We certainly want to set the bar higher, and we will. That's coming soon with the water system master plan and the infrastructure improvements we're doing. That's terrific. That's amazing. So look, Dan, that is all we have time for. So I want to thank you for participating, and thank you to the listeners for tuning in. This podcast will be available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube with additional links on our Facebook page. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce. And if you're interested in becoming a member of the Chamber, please go to the Chamber of Commerce, the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce website, pembrokechamber.org. Dan Sullivan, terrific. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for having me. Thank you.